Japan is revising its immigration laws, allowing deportation of most asylum seekers who have applied for refugee status 3 times or more. The move is part of an effort to reduce the number of asylum seekers in detention centres and to remove those with fraudulent cases. That's according to the Immigration Services Agency. But critics say this new law denies asylum seekers a fair judicial process and is a breach of the UN's 1951 Refugee Convention, which Japan has ratified. Live now, Tokyo CNN's Hanako Montgomery. So for more on this, where do things actually stand right now? How are these laws affecting refugees at the moment?
John, it's good to see you. So as it stands right now, thousands of refugees are getting their applications reprocessed and reassessed by the immigration agency. Some will be allowed to stay, but others will be forced to leave. And critics have argued that this is a huge step back for Japan and its immigration policy, because as we know, Japan is in desperate need of more foreign workers, especially to address its demographic crisis and its ailing economy. Last year, Japan accepted a record number of asylum seekers, but it was still only about 2% of the total number of applications. So critics argue that with this new law, it could further upend even more asylum seekers in the country. We spoke to one man in Japan who's been living here for nearly 2 decades and is still fighting for his legal right to be here. And now he fears that he may be forced to return to a country he says he absolutely cannot go back to. This is his story.
We're at a demonstration here in Tokyo where people are protesting Japan's immigration law revisions. They're angry and they're scared because they say Japan is tightening its borders even more to refugees who actually need protection.
Among the protesters is Myo Chocho, who for 18 years has called these streets home, but not by choice. Born a Rohingya Muslim in Myanmar, ethnic and sectarian violence governed his life.
I'm still scarred by the bullying and discrimination that I experienced. It's brought me great trauma.
Fueled by anger at injustice, Myo joined now deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi's democracy movement at 16. Survival was a daily battle, but he left the fighting behind when the military junta repeatedly and unlawfully detained his father in his place, Myo says. He escaped in 2006. His father enlisted a broker who got Myo a passport and a one-way ticket to Japan, a destination Myo only learned about on the day he left.
I didn't even have time to say goodbye to my mother. I still can't forget that day. I've put my father through so much.
Since fleeing, Myo hasn't seen his family, who are now in a refugee camp in Bangladesh. His only tie to Myanmar is through friends still fighting for democracy, who asked to remain anonymous out of fear of persecution. They lamented how Myo, even after years in Japan, was still denied human rights. As one of nearly 14,000 asylum seekers currently in Japan, Myo is safe from political persecution. But assimilating into a country that's more than 98% ethnically Japanese has been a challenge for Myo, a reality underscored with 3 rejected refugee applications. But now, even safety is no longer guaranteed. He fears sudden deportation under Japan's new controversial immigration law.
We just got off the phone with the immigration agency. They said that anybody who was facing any real danger back home wouldn't be forcefully deported, but they acknowledged that this was still a really long and arduous process, and one that they haven't really figured out entirely.
Now Myo says he faces an impossible choice.
I don't want to be sent to Myanmar and lose my life at the hands of the dictatorial military regime over there. I don't want to waste what my father did to save me.
Myo, just one of thousands of desperate asylum seekers, finds his life hanging in the balance in Japan, with no refuge in sight.
And John, one thing that really stood out to me in my conversation with Japan's immigration agency was how they reassured me that this new law would help streamline Japan's refugee screening process, how this would now free up resources and provide more assistance and more aid to quote-unquote real refugees. But when I asked them about this new process, they remained pretty elusive. They couldn't identify a clear set of rules, a clear criteria. So it really begs the question, who will actually be allowed to stay and who will be forced to leave? So you can only imagine for an asylum seeker who doesn't have any family here, who doesn't have any legal representation, who can't even speak the language, just how fearful they must be that each day could be their last in a country that they thought would be a safe haven for them. John.
Yeah, it is often the case for asylum seekers that they are left powerless in these situations. So, Hanako, thank you. Hanako Montgomery there in Tokyo. Appreciate it. Well, in Kenya, 6 weeks of protests, which began over proposed tax increases, have turned deadly and